a Bachelor of Arts in Education from the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. Back when I was a CU buff, that would have made her the enemy. But since then, I think both colleges have switched divisions several times.
Yes.
All sorts of places. So we can now call each other friends.
Yes.
So Claire, the floor is
Thank
yours.
you. Thank you so much for having me. Go Big Red. Well, for the record. Great. So yes, I'm Claire Tobin. I'm with the Denver Foundation. I'm so happy to be here today. This is just my favorite thing to talk about. I've been with the foundation for about 2.5 years. Most recently, I was in fundraising with Rocky Mountain PBS, National Jewish Health, and Catholic Charities as well. So I've done frontline fundraising for a bunch of really cool organizations, and now to land at the Denver Foundation, I get to work with donors to support any cause and organization they love most. So this is a really, really neat, exciting place to be. Before we dive into all the really neat tools the Denver Foundation has to offer donors to make their philanthropic goals a reality, I just kind of wanted to explain what is the Denver Foundation and why does it exist. So this is a fun year. I'm glad to be having this conversation today. The Denver Foundation started on November 30th, 1925. So we are celebrating 100 years this November. Even though our birthday isn't until November, we've been celebrating all year long. It's a pretty big milestone. So 100 years ago, when people passed away, they knew they wanted to leave philanthropy in their estate plans, but estate planning was not as sophisticated as it is today 100 years ago. So people were leaving philanthropy in their wills, and bankers had a group of money earmarked for philanthropy, but they didn't really know what to do with it, but they wanted to honor these late individuals' wishes. So these group of bankers in 1925 took the money they had earmarked for philanthropy and created a permanent endowment. And the endowment was to spin off a certain percentage each year to spin off to serve the community's greatest needs. So that is what formed the Denver Foundation in 1925. That permanent endowment has grown. It's over 150 million today. And each year we spin off 4% of that balance to serve our community grants program. And that community grants program serves the community's greatest needs. So we are still honoring those founding fathers' wishes in 1925. And I think they would be pretty amazed to see that not only are we honoring those wishes, but we have invested that endowment really well and we steward it well so it will live on for the next 100 years plus to serve this community. So just a quick overview of the Denver Foundation. Our total assets are just over 1.23 billion. Now I will note, this is our last audited number, which is our 2023 annual report. Our 2024 report will be coming out in just a few weeks. So this number will be updated real soon, but I just wanted to give you the official audited numbers of the foundation. So, you know, I was just boasting we have this great permanent endowment. It's around 150 million. So that 150 million falls in our assets, but that additional money comes from all the different really neat specialized funds that we offer the community, and I'll get into what those funds are here in just a second. In 2023, we had a really cool year because we brought in 73 million into new money into the Denver Foundation, into our new different funds. But what we're really proud of is we deployed out 128 million. So when you look at the numbers, you think, well, how can you be sustainable when you're granting out so much more than you brought in that year? That's because of things like these permanent endowments that keep us really sustainable. So we can really boast that we are a really high volume grant making organization, and that's what we want to be. We want to see funds going out into the community, into really great organizations to make our area where we live stronger and really thriving. So when I talked about when we were created in 1925, it was to serve the community's greatest needs. What does that mean? So to honor that founding statement, every 10 years, we do what we call a strategic framework. So the last one started in 2020 and was completed in 2021. We do thousands of surveys to donors, fund holders, civic leaders, nonprofit leaders to determine what is the community's greatest needs. And then based off those, we create our priority areas, and organizations that fall within those priority areas can apply for our grant program that comes from that permanent endowment. Every 10 years, we reassess and just determine to stay on top of the greatest needs of the community. And those priority areas right now are economic opportunity, housing, environment and climate, and youth well-being. And some of these will stay constant throughout the years. Housing, education is always a big priority, but things fluctuate, and we just always want to make sure we have a really high pulse on what the community needs are. And this also makes us really great stewards and experts on organizations that are doing this work within the Denver metro area. So again, like I said, that our permanent endowment is the Fund for Denver, which I've been talking about, which supports that community grants program. So I just wanted to give you a quick high-level overview of what the Denver Foundation is before I jump into the really neat specialized services that we offer donors. And the reason I like to brag about this a little bit is so people understand that we have a really great pulse on the community needs, and we are really boots on the ground working with nonprofits and really just do our best to understand the Denver Metro and the nonprofit organizations in it. So right now I'm going to jump into these different kind of funds and cert tools we offer donors. Kind of our main tool, and what you may have heard of, are donor advised funds that we offer at the Denver Foundation. It is $10,000 to open up a donor advised fund with us, and you just have to keep a balance of $3,500 to keep that fund alive. So a donor advised fund is really neat. You have money, you donate it to the Denver Foundation, but it is technically your money to grant out to 501c3 nonprofits of your choosing. They just have to be registered 501c3. They're just a really neat tool to, if you have a wealth event and you have money that you want to give to charity, but you don't want to give it all to one organization at once, you can put it in this donor advised fund, distribute the money out over time. Because the Denver Foundation is a 501c3, you get that tax benefit immediately when you create that donor advised fund, and then you can grant it out upon your own personal timing. We do ask that you make at least one grant every 3 years. We don't want to harbor money. We want to keep money going out the door and supporting organizations. But we do have really neat ways in planning to have your money grow within donor advised funds. We have investment opportunities and just really cool tools for you to make sure that you're supporting the organizations you want, and you can use a donor advised fund to maximize your support. So again, you contribute to the fund, you name the fund whatever you like. We have people who name it, the Smith Family Fund. We have people who have fun, quirky names. You can have donor advised fund names that are pretty anonymous. Because when a nonprofit receives a grant check from this fund, it will say you have received a fund from the fund name at the Denver Foundation. So they will receive that information. We invest your assets, so it'll grow over time. You recommend grants, and then you can continue to contribute into that fund throughout the years. So I've been talking a lot about kind of like the logistics of a donor advised fund, but I want to take just a moment to breathe a little bit of life into these funds. I want to tell a story of Barb Grogan. We recently had this story of her on our blog, and it's on our website as well. But Barb is such a wonderful champion of the Denver Foundation. And she's a former board member of ours, and she's a donor advised fund holder. So 20 years ago, Barb Grogan sold her business that she started, Western Industrial Contractors. And Barb knew, when I sell my business, when I retire, next chapter of my life, I'm going to dedicate to philanthropy. I want to become a philanthropist. So I think a lot of people, when they think, if I have a wealth event or I want to be a philanthropist, I'm going to start a private foundation. So she was going to start a private foundation. She just happened to have lunch with our CEO at the time, David Miller, and said to him, I'm going to be a philanthropist. I'm going to start a private foundation. How cool is that? And he said, why? She was shocked. And he explained to her, there is a huge administrative burden to starting a private foundation. You have to register with the IRS. There's paperwork every year you have to do. You have to pay an attorney. You have to do your own investing. You can get all those benefits of having a private foundation at the Denver Foundation. But the only work you have to do is grant out your money. Focus on the joy of giving. We do all the heavy lifting for you. We do all the tax work for you. We make it really easy. And Barb, immediately after that lunch, called her attorney and said, cancel the paperwork. I'm opening a donor advised fund with the Denver Foundation. And that was 20 years ago. And she is still incredibly active in grant making through her fund. So active that she really works with her family on her donor advice fund. And this is what's really neat. It doesn't just have to be you on your donor advice fund. You can add other individuals to your fund. You can have succession planning. When I pass away, my kids or my grandkids will take over the fund. And she has that succession planning, but she doesn't just want them to start making grants after she passes. She's been active with her kids and grandkids and recommending grants while they're alive, teaching them the power of philanthropy and working together as a family to make really strong, impactful grants to organizations that are really passionate and personal and important to them. Again, like I said, that generational giving, family philanthropy is what makes these tools of donor advice funds really special. When you set up a donor advice fund at the Denver Foundation, you have an individual that you work with that you're assigned to. So that's something that's a really cool offering that we have that you might not get from a commercial donor advice fund. So you have an individual who's your personal representative and contact at the Denver Foundation. You can reach out to them if you have administrative questions about a nonprofit or how do I make a grant here or there. But they're also just a personal connection. I try to meet 1 to 3 times a year with my fund holders I work with. Sometimes we have coffee, we have lunch, we talk about their giving, what it looks like, and sometimes we just talk about their recent travel and their grandkids. But it's this really personal connection that you have with the Denver Foundation when you start a fund with us. You have a personal contact and representative. Sometimes as well, I really talk to people about next generation and family philanthropy. So I host donors really regularly for family philanthropy sessions. Sometimes I'll host them at the Denver Foundation. They'll bring their kids or their grandkids, and we'll talk about what is a donor advice fund, and we'll kind of just talk about the logistics of giving. Sometimes we write a family mission statement, or we make a roadmap about what does it mean to work together in philanthropy. And sometimes we just set a cadence. What time of the year are you guys going to give? Do you want to have a conversation about this and give together, or are you just going to give on your own? The thing is, I could give a million different examples. It's not one size fits all. How you choose to use a donor advice fund, how you choose to engage the next generation is completely up to you. And that's what's so fun. All these conversations are so unique and wonderful. One of my favorite stories is I have a donor advised fund holder I work with. And each year she gives her grandkids $1,000 to grant out from her donor advised fund. They can give to an organization of their choice, but she gives them an assignment. On Thanksgiving dinner, they have to come with a presentation about who they want to give to and why, and show the impact of what they think this grant will make, and then she'll allow them to make these gifts. To really understand philanthropy, she's inviting her kids to really think about giving. I think sometimes we think, oh, if I win the lottery or if I have some cool wealth event I wasn't expecting, I'm going to be a philanthropist. But then you have that money and you think, well, what do I do with it? So we can really have these conversations to make your giving really meaningful and thoughtful and live on for the next generation to engage in philanthropy as well. So like I said, our main tool that we use for donors are those donor advice funds. I wanted to highlight 2 other tools we have. One is called a designated fund and one is called a field of interest fund. So a designated fund is a fund you set up and you have specific organizations you want to give to annually. So you designate 3 to 5 nonprofits. You put money in this fund, you create the fund, and each year the Denver Foundation grants out money to these specific nonprofits for you. It's very hands-off. So you might think, that's crazy. Why would I set that up if I could have a donor advice fund where I choose the nonprofits I give to? A lot of those are created in people's estate plans. So they say, I have this donor advice fund. I'm really active. I love grant making. I love being flexible. I know when I pass, I love Rocky Mountain PBS and I love National Jewish Health, just a plug to my old jobs. So when I pass, I want to leave the Denver Foundation $1 million. And every year, I want you to send grants to those organizations I love forever. That's what a lot of those tools are for. Not all donors create them in their estate plan, but they're a great tool for that hands-off giving after you've passed. You know, the organizations you love will be supported forever. The other tool I wanted to highlight was that field of interest fund. So a donor gives us kind of, there's these conversations of what do you love? What are you passionate about? Maybe it's animal welfare. Maybe it's organizations working in women's health. Just, conversation, decide what you're passionate about, then it's hands off. Each of the Denver Foundation researches organizations that fall within your personal passion areas, and we'll grant out to organizations that do that work. Again, that is also a great estate planning tool. Not always, some donors set them up while they're alive, but when you pass, you can say, I know I love animal welfare, but I don't know the best organization doing that after I pass. Don't worry, we gotcha. We'll make sure we do that research and we carry on your philanthropic intent well beyond your lifetime. When I say well beyond your lifetime, there's different ways we can do these funds, especially in estate gifts. Some donors do want to see these live on literally forever. So they will endow it, meaning each year we only spend a certain percentage of the fund balance, and we choose a percent that won't dig into that corpus. So that fund will grow and grow and grow throughout the years while it's invested, and then it will live on forever. So these organizations and causes will receive grant checks in your name in perpetuity. Some donors don't want that longevity, so they'll say, you know what, after I pass, you'll get this money. I want you to spend it out in 5, 10, 15 years. I want to make bigger impacts in a short amount of time. There's different ways you can use those tools. So again, those are hands-off great estate planning tools, but maybe while you're living, this donor advised fund where you're active, you get to make those grants whenever you want. That might be a better tool as well, but they're really neat offerings we have. And then we also offer scholarship opportunities. The donor advised fund has a fund balance of $10,000 to start. These designated and field of interest funds are a little higher. They're $25,000 to start. They're a little higher because they have more management that for the internal staff to run them. We do offer customized scholarship opportunities. Now those are a bit higher. Those are $500,000 to start a custom scholarship. We have a lot of donors as well do those in their estate plans. I worked with a donor about 2 years ago who was a successful attorney. Like, I would have never gone to law school if it weren't for my scholarship. When I pass, I'm leaving you a certain amount of money to create a customized scholarship for law school students. So I'm paying it forward for them. And the reason why it's so high, the $500,000 mark, a bit higher than the other funds, is because we have a whole scholarship team that administers scholarships to individuals, reads scholarship applications. But it's a really neat resource we offer at the Denver Foundation as well. So again, I kind of talked about that difference between endowed and non-endowed. So a non-endowed donor advised fund, you can grant out as much of that fund balance as you like at any time. You just have to keep it at that minimum balance of $3,500. Most people choose to endow. The endowed fund option is typically for estate planning. Again, that field of interest designated fund. I want to endow it. I want it to live forever. We do have some people choose to endow a donor advised fund. So what that means is they can only spend a certain percentage of the fund balance. They typically do that if they want to see their kids, grandkids, the next generation take on, and they want to make sure that fund lives forever. So it's great to have these different tools and options. Again, just these great benefits of the Denver Foundation is that personalized approach. Like I said, you have someone you work with, you chat with, you can make really cool personalized philanthropic plans and goals with them. That direct contact. And one thing I haven't highlighted on yet is research opportunities. So a lot of times our fund holders will give us a call and say, this year I'm really interested in giving to food banks. Can you do some research on food insecurity or food banks here in the Denver metro area that I could grant to? Of course, we'll do research for them. We'll send it to them. So do a lot of cool research opportunities for fund holders as well. And because we have that community grants program that makes us so hyper aware of what's happening in the community, we have a whole team that can do some really great research for you because they're constantly working with nonprofits in the community. And then we also have really fun events for our fund holders, which I'll get into in a minute. So there's really fun ways for our fund holders to connect with other fund holders at the Denver Foundation, other philanthropists, and meet like-minded people as well. Again, I offer those fun family philanthropy sessions. And then we also offer, my wonderful colleague Wesley is here. He's our planned giving office or director of planned giving. We work with donors to create really neat personalized estate plans. So again, I've loved giving with you through my donor advice fund while I'm alive. I want my philanthropy to live on forever. Let's talk about ways we can make your philanthropy live on beyond your lifetime. And just to note, don't have to be a fund holder of the Denver Foundation to do estate planning with us. We're working with a really wonderful woman who was referred to us from a legacy or estate planning attorney. And she has a chunk of money she wants to leave for philanthropy when she dies. And so we're creating funds with her. So when she passes, we get that money. We're actually creating an endowed designated fund. So we get that money, and then that will be endowed. And each year, the organizations she loves most get funding forever. But again, she's not a fund holder with us right now. But because she's doing this really great estate plan with us, we treat her like she is. We're taking her to lunch. We're talking about her philanthropy. So it's really special. Also, estate planning is great with the Denver Foundation, because if you leave a specific nonprofit in your estate plan, you change your mind. You want to go back. Maybe you want to take this nonprofit out and add a new one in, or you want to add more organizations. You're going to have to pay your estate attorney every time you make a change to your will. If you earmark the Denver Foundation in your estate plan, it's a one-stop time. You just earmark the money, percentage of your estate that will go to the Denver Foundation, and then you work with us to make really specialized plans of how you want to support nonprofits in your estate, and you can change that at any time with us. It's just a call, a lunch, but you're not paying your estate attorney every time to make those detailed plans. You just have to earmark us in your estate plan, and then we can do some really cool personalized estate planning options with you. And that's where Wesley plays in. Like I said, we have those really neat events for donors. So this is our 100th year. So we're doing some specialized 100th anniversary events this year. But outside of our 100th year anniversary, these are the normal events we have. They're just on pause as we do some specialized 100th anniversary events this year. But we do events we call Leading and Learning, where we invite fund holders to the Denver Foundation or other nonprofit locations throughout the city. We just have specialized conversations about giving. So we offered one on family philanthropy in 2023. We'll also have organizations, nonprofit leaders come in certain areas, housing, environment, and climate, and who could talk about, the landscape. And then we invite our fund holders in to come in who either are passionate about those areas or want to learn more about those areas. And then we have a fun chit-chat networking time for those fund holders to talk to these nonprofit leaders or to talk and get to know each other as well. And these are some other, we had an event last year to go over, I don't know if you've noticed, but the ballots are about a book long. So we had an event that went over all the ballot measures so people could understand how to vote for specialized initiatives to enhance our community. And then this year, these are some of our fun anniversary events this year we've had. We had a brewery here create a Denver Foundation beer for us in honor of our 100th anniversary, and we invited our fund holders to all just hang out, raise a glass to the Denver Foundation's 100th anniversary, and just to get to know each other a little more. And then we also had an event about youth mental health as well. Like I said, we offer that really great specialized estate planning as well, and we're really proud to be able to just have such great services for estate planning. And if you do choose to trust the Denver Foundation with your estate plans, you are part of our Community Legacy Society. This is a picture from our last Legacy Society luncheon, but you have an annual luncheon, specialized communication, and a chance to connect with other people who also trust the Denver Foundation with their estate planning as well. Also, all these specialized funds that we offer, I kind of quickly said, once you give money to the fund, that's not just cash. One thing that's really great about the Denver Foundation is we accept cash, stock, mutual funds, crypto, artwork. We really are proud of our non-cash assets we can accept to create your fund at the Denver Foundation, especially with that estate planning. We have a lot of donors say, when I pass, I'm leaving you my house. We liquidate the house and we put those funds into the fund the donor created. We'll have donors leave us artwork, all sorts of things. And that's where, again, Wesley comes in to have conversations about what types of complex assets can we accept to make your philanthropic goals a reality. So again, all these conversations, the one constant is giving is very personal. Everything we offer is a very personalized approach. What do you love? What do you want to see happen? And how can we use all these cool tools we have to make that a reality? The best thing is that, again, we take off that administrative burden. So people, when they partner with the Denver Foundation, you're not worried about these certain filings. All you get to worry about is participating in that joy of giving. So it's a really great resource for people who want to start that philanthropic. That's it.